everybody, and welcome to I Can't Believe It's Not News, your favorite podcast about fake news. I'm Beth.
And I'm Kelly.
Hey, Kelly. How is it going today?
Going pretty good. Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I am super excited about our guest today. I don't know how we got him. But...
Me either. I think he didn't realize who we were, but I'm cool with that. That's fine with me. I love it.
No, I'm really excited. We are going to talk to Will Sommer he's an editor at The Hill, and he runs this this newsletter where basically he does for us what none of us want to do. He basically reads and listens to conservative news and then breaks it down in a newsletter for people who don't listen or read conservative news like he does. And he has some really cool insights because basically he's like the expert, and he is, politically he is a liberal. So the way he breaks it down isn't going to be probably offensive.
Yeah.
So
he's going
to talk to us today
for us, right?
He does. He's like my hero for sure. And we had a really good conversation with him. So I say we just get into it and bring on Will.
Let's do it.
Hey, everybody. We are here with Will Sommer. Will,
hi.
Say hello to everybody.
Hi. Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, Will, tell us who you are and why you're here with us today.
Sure. So I'm a reporter and editor in Washington. And my day job is I'm the political campaigns editor at The Hill. And on the side, and the reason I'm here today is I write a newsletter about right-wing media and conspiracy theories and, fake news and weird news called rightrichter.com. That's Richter like a Richter scale.
How did we get you on this podcast? You're like super qualified.
Well, thank you.
You're like actual legit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I'm happy to be on.
Ask and you shall receive is my
yes, exactly
what I do. So cool. Well, we are really excited to have you here. Tell us about your newsletter. Like, how did you start that, and why did you name it Right Richter?
Yeah, sure. Sure. So I come from a pretty conservative background in Texas. I kind of grew up experiencing a lot of conservative news, whether that be Fox News or Rush Limbaugh and stuff like that. And so my politics changed, but I still had this real taste for it. And so I was following all these guys for years and their different antics and so on. And I felt like it really wasn't being covered in a way that was interesting to me personally. And I think a lot of the coverage was kind of it was like Media Matter stuff or let's own these guys. And, I thought it was interesting to cover as a movement and a way the ideas progress. And basically my girlfriend got fed up with me telling her about these people all the time. And she says, so go bother somebody else, start a newsletter. And so that's what happened.
I think that was good advice from your girlfriend.
The amount of times I would like to be able to tell my husband, can you please start a blog about this soccer team that you want to spend 15 hours of your day talking about? But he hasn't done it yet.
Basically, your girlfriend is a hero to women around the world.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's great to hear. And as far as the name, it's supposed to be like a Richter scale. It's kind of like keeping an eye on those fellas, seeing how things are going.
Yeah, I like it.
It's maybe a little obscure. Like I get a lot of questions about why I chose that name, and at this point, I'm stuck with it. So there we go.
Do people ever think it has something to do with Andy Richter?
Yes.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
So, first of all, I just want to thank you for taking a bullet for the rest of us and reading and listening to all this conservative right-wing news, especially the talk show hosts. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a perverse, thing I like to do. I seem to have a very high tolerance for it. It's fun. I like seeing the twists and turns, both of the various personalities' careers. And, it's always interesting seeing what ideas or what conspiracy theories, catch on and kind of break out of your 4chans or your internet forums to maybe even Fox News.
Right. So do you think it helps for people who generally get their news from non-conservative sources to understand the news that's coming from these conservative sources?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was relevant even before the Trump presidency started, but I think it's really crucial now. If you're interested in being an informed citizen, we've seen. I mean, the president himself, obviously, he launched the voter fraud commission based on his claim that there were 3 million illegal votes cast, a claim that he clearly got from an InfoWars article. And so, things are happening. Obviously, there's kind of this mind meld in terms of the conservative media and the Trump administration. As far as obviously, Steve Bannon was in the White House. Supposedly Trump has Lou Dobbs from Fox Business listening to the cabinet meetings and offering his advice. And so yeah, I mean, it just as far as the presidency, there's that. Then also, there's a good segment of the country that is getting this as their primary source of news. So I think that's also valuable.
I feel like it's almost like keep your friends closer and your enemies closer. It is really helpful to know what they're saying.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I think if you're coming from the left or as a Democrat, I think it can be very illuminating to see what's going on in what is otherwise a very closed off media ecosystem. And additionally, it's fun. People say they find the newsletter funny and enjoyable.
Yeah, I got the copy that you sent over to me, and I really enjoyed it. So I signed up. Just
great.
So you know, I've already signed up. So, well, actually, this is a good point. You should tell our listeners where they can sign up for the newsletter.
Yes. So it's rightrichter.com, and the sign up page is right there. And then from there is a link to the Patreon, which is the premium Right Richter content for major Right Richter heads.
All right. We know all about Patreon.
Yeah, there you
go. Yep. We're on there too, everybody. Come on now. Go over, help both of us out.
So I actually wanted to ask you, because I did look into a lot of this throughout the week. And then today I just took this really deep dive starting at about noon. And my mind I thought I knew a lot about what was going on with right-wing conspiracy theories. Like I keep a fairly good eye. I had to look up everything on the newsletter that Beth sent to me. I was shocked at how many things I didn't know and people I didn't know. I had to look up, what was the first guy? The guy who was just doxxed. Can you remind me his name?
Ricky Vaughn. Yeah, that's his alias. Yeah.
Oh, my brother. Yeah, Ricky Vaughn, my brother.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I read that and I was like, that's funny.
But yeah, I mean, I was really shocked at how many of these people that I really thought I had a better finger on it, and I didn't. But
yeah, I agree, 100%.
Yeah. But what I did do is I went to Twitter to check out hashtags for QAnon. And one of the first things that came up was actually your whole tweet thread, Will, from yesterday, because apparently there was a march in Washington and you were there.
Yes. So this is the believers of the QAnon conspiracy theory. They march to demand answers, I guess. They're believing that I mean, like if you should I get into explaining what QAnon is?
Yes, I think you should, because I don't think everybody knows about it.
Oh, sure. No, I mean the lucky folks who don't. Yeah. So the QAnon is this very this increasingly popular conspiracy theory that's especially popular with Trump supporters, and it's kind of like a mega conspiracy theory that wraps in a lot of other ones we've seen, like Pizzagate, or the idea that the Clintons murdered DNC staffer Seth Rich. So basically, QAnon, and bear with me here because this is going to sound really crazy, but it is true. It is true to the extent that people believe this. So an anonymous person has been posting on 4chan and 8chan and various kind of shady internet outlets where literally anyone can write, right? And you don't have to verify your identity or anything. And so
your country, right?
Yes, exactly. And so this person has been posting, posing as Q is their alias, and Q is a reference to the this high level security clearance. So the implication is this person is like high up in the Trump administration. And they post these kind of these clues that are called breadcrumbs. And, it's a lot of it's very cryptic. And so it'll be things like follow the white rabbit, or like references to Hillary. And so kind of the overarching thing is that Q is supposed to be this member of the administration who's giving Trump supporters like clues. And he's like, look, I know like things might look bad. Like, so, but really like things are going awesome for Trump. So like maybe Hillary's already been arrested and she is going to be sent to Guantanamo Bay, and just stay tuned for that. And, Trump is arresting all these like high level pedophile networks in Hollywood and Washington. And, don't worry about Mueller, because secretly it's all a front, and Trump and Mueller are working together to take down Hillary and John Podesta. So it's kind of like this counter narrative in which everything is going great for Trump and his fans.
That is insane. And we've talked about this before. So we did an episode about clickbait, actually, and it led us to a whole conspiracy theory with a skincare line through and a Seth Rich murder. So like they did, this company put out this email where they linked, it was like a clickbait email about Sean Hannity, not having to worry about money anymore because his wife was selling this skincare, and it linked back to that whole Seth Rich murder thing. And I was like, what the fuck is happening here? Like it was crazy. But anyway, I was telling Kelly earlier, we were looking at your pictures on Twitter from that march. I was like, that would have been a great march for like the mental health hospital to set up a booth.
Yeah. It was very intense. I mean, it was really, so these people it was a supposed march for transparency, but what they meant was, a march for, to reveal the true secrets about the misdeeds of the deep state. And it was truly surreal seeing, maybe roughly 200 people walking down downtown Washington and just like yelling these like QAnon slogans and saying like, who is Q? Who is Q? And so, it was very intense. And there were definitely a lot of kind of different strange little strands of like internet and right-wing culture mixed up in it.
I was just going to say, I can't help thinking that this is some liberal guy just messing with these people, and that this is just like somebody who used to play a lot of Qbert and was like, oh, I'm going to make up this thing and they're going to believe it. What was that guy who died?
I mean,
it's like a Paul Horner guy, like just screwing with these people.
Yeah, it is very bizarre. I mean, I think that is, were we to ever find out Q's identity, I think it's much more likely that it is, someone in a basement somewhere, or perhaps a Russian, or who knows. But I do think it's highly unlikely, verging on impossible, that it is as Q's believers believe. They say maybe it's Trump himself. Well, there's no way Trump's going on 4chan, but like maybe it's Trump, or maybe it's Dan.
God, we hope not.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that would only make the situation worse.
What do you mean, the Russians? I don't understand what you have against the Russians.
Well, yeah, I mean, so specifically in the case of the Russians, we saw obviously some prominent Twitter accounts, among other things, turned out to secretly be Russian operations. So it is, if the Russian idea is just to kind of like stir stuff up and in like a very weird way, I think QAnon would certainly play into that.
I can't wait for the article that comes out that says QAnon is actually being led by the kids from Parkland. Oh shit, I just put that out there. Now it's going to happen.
now they're going to know. Now they're going to know. They're going to be like, it was broke on this podcast where these girls from the Pacific Northwest, they know what's going on.
InfoWars is going to be playing our clips.
Let's not. God.
Kelly, you have a question. I've cut you off a couple times.
Oh, no, it's okay. I went through that whole article that you posted, and one of the things you posted, because Q doesn't just post these long blog posts. What he does is he posts these really cryptic messages. And when you were explaining it inside of one of your articles, you had a link to a PDF. And between that PDF with the ultra privacy email address on the PDF, and then the things I've seen that Q has actually left on these message boards, I really do not get the sense that the majority of this is being led by people who are English speakers, mostly because of how things are written. I mean, they're written in such an unusual manner. They are not written in complete sentences. even when you have complete sentences, the present tense and the past tense are often confused. They're things that I see on a regular basis with people who are not native English speakers. Do you feel like there's a good indicator that not only is Q not maybe a Native American? Let me put that a different way. Do you think it's possible? Do you think that it's possible that Q, not only Q, but a large contingency of the people who are following him and collecting this data and sort of disseminating it, do you feel like there's a big portion of this that is maybe not from the United States?
Well, that's a very good point because as you mentioned, that PDF that has kind of compiled the QAnon stuff. I mean, there's a very active QAnon kind of community around it, and as you say, there's almost like a media operation in terms of people both say people at InfoWars or just random internet people who are seem to have a lot of graphic design talent. Who are making these kind of fiery Qs in the sky or whatever. So, and certainly, as you say, as far as Q's syntax goes, that is certainly the case. One of the big QAnon slogans that they were chanting yesterday was "Where we go one, we go all," which is a very strange bit of stylistically.
Yeah.
So I just want to mention really quick, the article that Kelly was talking about is you've written a blog on Medium called Meet the Storm, the conspiracy theory taking over pro-Trump internet. So you guys can find Will's blogs here on Medium. And then he also has another one out called Roseanne Barr is tweeting about QAnon, a new Pizzagate style conspiracy theory. And we definitely want to talk about this.
Yeah. So the QAnon has been bubbling up since late August, or excuse me, October of last year. And so it's kind of floating around. And I was really intrigued to see when it would break into larger right-wing media, because it is very strange and very something like Seth Rich, you can say, okay, our claim is Hillary Clinton had this guy murdered. That's relatively easy to state. But with QAnon, it's you've got to buy into, it's so elaborate and complicated. But the QAnon people are lucky in that they have Roseanne Barr, a very, obviously who has a successful show now and is a dedicated QAnon believer. And so last week, Roseanne made a cryptic tweet that was a reference to QAnon, and it was regarding Trump supposedly arresting, all these pedophiles. And, people were very baffled by it, except for QAnon people who were thrilled.
They were like, yeah, that's our girl.
Exactly.
I have this tweet here that's linked on your blog. So it says, President Trump has freed so many children held in bondage to pimps all over this world, hundreds each month. He has broken up trafficking rings in high places everywhere. Notice that. I disagree on some things, but give him benefit of doubt for now. Wow.
Yes, and this is actually not the first time Roseanne has tweeted about QAnon. In November, she was tweeting that she wanted to meet QAnon, or she wanted to be introduced to him or DM with him. So she's in deep, and now because she has this celebrity, this is kind of forcing the larger right wing media to grapple with QAnon as well.
And when I read that this morning, and I was really doing all of this, just discovering who QAnon was and seeing some of the things that they put out. And I thought, they really rally against mainstream media. And I can understand. I mean, that's been a talking point for decades, I feel like, at this point. However, I find it very hard to believe, knowing how Trump has behaved so far, that if he had broken up pedophile rings, that he wouldn't have put it on the front page of everything. Sean Hannity would be talking about it every single day. Every single time it happened, it would be running on Fox and Friends. It would be, for as much as they call themselves not mainstream media, they were consistently for years the number one news source in America. And you're not seeing any of that anywhere. So do they really, do they go to the point where they believe that even something like Fox News is not mainstream media? Or are you seeing more of this there?
Yes. So in this case, what the explanation would be that Trump is making all these moves in secret because the reason QAnon is also referred to as the storm is because there's this idea that this storm is going to come and sweep away all these corrupt people, and so at this rally these people were chanting we are the storm, or we're bringing the storm. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what's going on. One part of QAnon that actually speaks to this secrecy is they've become very fixated on sealed indictments in various federal courts. And now there's sealed indictments all the time for regular criminal cases. But they've become convinced that these thousands of sealed indictments are like for celebrities and high ranking politicians. And soon enough, like we'll see, like a big thing is scrutinizing in pictures, Obama and Hillary Clinton scrutinizing their legs, because sometimes if it looks like there's like if the pant leg looks baggy, they say it's because say Obama is wearing like a electronic bracelet because he's already been arrested and is like on parole.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I also see in your blog, you talk about how the storm is helped along by the fact that the clues are vague enough that they could apply to pretty much anything. The line Phil_B_O_extracted, for example, means Obama was arrested in the Philippines. I remember when the Las Vegas shooting happened, we did an episode about that. And there was a conspiracy theory about the shooter sending his girlfriend to the Philippines because Obama had just been there. And Obama had left instructions for her to give to him. I was like, what is up with Obama in the Philippines and conspiracy theorists? It's like their wet dream.
Yeah, it's very bizarre, and the vagueness of it means you can really like superimpose whatever your particular conspiracy theory interest is, or whatever your kind of animating thing is, whether that be like, for example, at the QAnon march, people were talking about everything from the vaccine, autism fears to sovereign citizens, which are like obscure like legal theories. To this one fellow was claiming like QAnon was going to solve his health issues. So you can really see anything, and it also makes it unverifiable. So it's very rare for QAnon to be like, okay, like this is going to happen tomorrow. It's a lot like, something's coming. And then inevitably, because the news is the news, something inevitably does happen. And then they say, well, that's what QAnon was talking about.
Is this going to be like the next cult where there's like a mass suicide and then we can do a crossover episode with My Favorite Murder?
Well, it is certainly very bizarre. I mean, I think in terms of violence, we saw with Pizzagate, obviously the gentleman came in and shot up the place, and so it really only takes one person who's unhinged to latch onto these things for some bad stuff to happen.
Let's talk about Pizzagate, because you've dove kind of deep into that, and I want to talk about this Pointer article. You did a Q&A with them. They have a great article that says, "Meet the man who's got all the news on conservative news." And there's a comment down at the bottom that I want to talk about. So give us just a little background on Pizzagate, just from your point of view and everything there.
Sure. Yeah. So it was a Saturday night, and as I so often do, I was just looking at right-wing people on Twitter, and they were all tweeting about Comet Ping Pong. And I thought, being in Washington, I've been to Comet Ping Pong, and I thought, these guys, they may have some crazy politics, but I guess they're just as into Comet Ping Pong as I am. Well, that turned out to not be the case.
You're like, wait.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so the Pizzagate was derived from the hacked John Podesta emails in which he referenced going to Comet Ping Pong and eating pizza. And so in like a very twisted, roundabout way, this convinced a surprisingly large percentage of people on the internet that this pizzeria in Washington was like a front for a high-ranking pedophile ring featuring Hillary Clinton and John Podesta and who knows who else.
Now, wasn't there an article in the Denver Guardian, the fake news site, that they put that out there?
Oh yeah, I mean that would be very believable. I mean, it was very popular, in all sorts of fake news because apparently it was a pretty hot ticket.
Yeah, I guess I was under the impression that that's where it started, but it sounds like maybe that was just a symptom of what was already happening.
Yeah, I think there's some, I think some Reddit postings played a big role in kicking that off. And, there's a lot of, you get into these feedback loops where people are getting one another very excited about the clues they've found.
They love the cryptic language, don't they? These conspiracy theorists, when they tend to go towards that alt-right side, it seems like they love these little cryptic clues where they get to decipher something out of nothing. So that's what it seems like this was here. Like they were just searching for words that people might use more often.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this, there was some, they were basing this on this like obscure, like some pedophile in the past perhaps had referred to children as pizza, or they got this idea that pizza was this code word, and that kind of, it all spun out from there.
I'm going to say I've never worked on a political campaign, but I'm pretty sure that I can say with certainty that pizza is consumed during political campaigns.
So that became a thing where it was like, why is this guy? Why are they ordering so much pizza? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, they're having events and what have you. Yeah.
Okay, I have one more pizza question for you. Yeah. Was there any food vendors at the march yesterday, and were any of them serving pizza?
No, there were not. But I mean, the pizza thing really is it's still going. So obviously it's part of QAnon, but additionally, I mean, just in terms of like pizza as this like symbol, Jimmy Kimmel recently has been feuding with Sean Hannity, and the Pizzagate people have kind of, to make some obscure point, have been finding pictures of Jimmy Kimmel eating pizza, and just kind of like retweeting them without comment. Like, it'll be like Jimmy Kimmel visits some pizzeria and they have a picture of him eating pizza, and they're like, well, like,
like that's like, oh my gosh,
they've cracked the case now.
Yes, exactly. They've got him.
So you did this great interview with Pointer. This person at the bottom of this article, her name is Melissa Hubbard. And just to start her comment, it says, I've got easily 200 hours research into the subject of satanic ritual abuse, the Podesta emails, Pizzagate, and the massive number of pedophile arrests taking place since Trump took office, which MSM, including The Hill, doesn't cover it. And that's a dig on you, because you work for The Hill.
Yes, exactly.
So she goes on and she talks about questions no one has asked the owner of Comet Ping Pong Pizza. Why do you call infants retarded whores? And why do your social media friends support that view?
I don't, but
it's crazy. So I hovered over her name and it says something kind of interesting. Of course, it's not pulling it for me right now. She is the dominatrix that started the Tea Party in Indiana. And if you search her, she has a YouTube video where she teaches you how to spank City Hall.
She has a book. She has a book called Spank City Hall. She's also, according to the Twitter handle that she has on the web, the comment, that has been suspended. I can't imagine why. I mean, she seems very level-headed. Yeah. I'm sure everything she says is perfectly sourced. I would love to see her cite some sources in these absolutely ridiculous questions. Like, why does your sister support a convicted child molester?
Yeah, it's funny. The second question here, why are so many businesses on your block, including yours, using FBI verified pedophile code symbols as logos? So, I mean, this is an example of like, just looking. They're so eager to find clues and things. There's another pizzeria. I think there's a reference to. There's another pizzeria on the block, and its logo is a pizza slice, like a triangle. And so this was taken to be, I guess, the FBI said once that triangles are a pedophile symbol. And so they linked this together and they're like, well, why do they have this triangle logo? And it's like, well, it's a pizza slice.
Oh my God.
Has the FBI seen the Teletubbies? I mean, come on.
Well, in fact, that business did eventually have to change its logo for precisely that reason.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
You know what that reminds me of is, have you ever seen Silicon Valley?
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where the guy creates the app, is it a hot dog or is it a penis? And he makes millions because the FBI ends up using it. their database.
That's awesome.
It was amazing.
All I know is that the triangle is a symbol for something sexual. I'm just going to have a really stern talk with my kids' geometry teacher when they get to geometry, because those triangles are not appropriate. This is not sex ed, people. This is geometry.
That's awful. It's awful what they did to this company, and it's crazy that it's still going on.
Yeah, it's really bad. I mean, this is just in terms of the death threats, and I mean, even before the shooting at Comet Ping Pong, in terms of the death threats, and as we can see here with this comment, the way that people kind of scoured the social media accounts of anyone even tangentially related to Comet Ping Pong, former employees, stuff like that, and then all the businesses on that block, because part of this theory was that there were these tunnels under it's kind of like a strip mall, and so the idea that they were, all the businesses were in cahoots. And, it's something I think we're seeing a lot more on the internet, in this kind of like weird kind of tragedy that can befall people when, through no fault of their own, they suddenly find themselves caught up in these conspiracy theories and in this targeted harassment in a way that really can derail your life for a period of time.
Yeah. I also read your article from the Washington City paper about, it's called The Alt-Right Conspiracy Theorists Obsess Over Comet Ping Pong. So you've been writing about this since 2016. It looks like this one is from.
Yes. Yeah. So I was the first reporter to notice this was a thing, like, on the right. And at the time, so I talked to James Alefantis, the owner of Comet Ping Pong, maybe 2 days after it had started. And at the time, he was very, he did not take it very seriously. Admittedly, neither did I. He said, these guys, like, they don't know what they're talking about. And obviously it really escalated from there.
I saw in here that you wrote that part of the conspiracy is fueled by the fact that he has a former romantic partner, David Brock, who's a longtime Democratic operative behind Media Matters and Correct the Record. And so James Alefantis for a while dated David Brock, who's like a Clinton operative, and started Media Matters, and so already was like a real kind of boogeyman for angry internet people on the right, and so that was kind of like the gears, it all makes sense. Yeah, there's a good comment on this one too. And this guy's name is Jeremy, and he's not a Trump supporter, by the way. And Kelly's theory is that he's actually a Putin supporter. But he says, P.S. Why is a pizza shop owner such a powerful man in D.C.? This is all very strange. Even stranger that it's not getting appropriate real coverage. So
yeah, so the reference to such a powerful man in DC, it was I believe GQ does an annual "The Most Powerful People in Washington" list, and it's very like tongue in cheek. And so in this case, because James Alefantis was connected with various political people, he made the list, and this was seen as just another bit of evidence.
That's crazy.
It really is.
It's really nuts.
I was just going to say, it's really, it blows my mind that we're living in I would like to hand them maybe some yarn and some crochet hooks. I want to get them a real hobby. Like, we were joking around about My Favorite Murder, and I would love if these people would actually take all of this information. I just finished I'll Be Gone in the Dark, which is Michelle McNamara's book. And, that's what she did, is she took all the internet research and she used it in a purposeful way. And I just wish I could take all these people's energy. I mean, you had a guy at that march yesterday who does a 24-hour a day coverage of QAnon.
That's crazy.
And that's nuts. Like, can you really not think of anything better to do with your time?
Yeah, I mean, it's very bizarre. About a year ago here, we had there was a Pizzagate rally, and it was people who believed in Pizzagate, and they had made all these costumes and stuff like this. And these were it was very interesting because, I mean, these were people who had travel from all over the country to rally against this thing that doesn't exist. And they were talking about, just the intensity. I mean, it gives your life a certain amount of drama. Like, if you believe this is true, well, like, you're a hero because you're rallying against the abuse of children. And so, there's also like a strong religious component for a lot of people. There's a lot of talk about like end times and beasts. And, at the QAnon rally yesterday, someone was saying, this has all been foretold in the book of Daniel. So, it's all this whole kind of like this blend.
Well, I have to say your newsletter and what you're doing is a service that I didn't know I needed. But now
I hear that a lot. Yeah, people don't know they have a taste for it.
Yeah, like, well, I can't do it. I mean, I listened to 2 minutes of Rush Limbaugh and I'm ready to like just dunk my head into a bathtub with a blow dryer. So I can't do it. And the fact that you can condense it and tell me what I need to know and keep me up to date. I was reading again in that Pointer article, you were talking about the pajama boys.
Yeah.
And how you realized, that's something that's like a right wing, like wink, wink meme. But liberals don't know what they're talking about. So tell us about pajama boys really quick.
Yeah, sure. So this is this is an example of something that is like hugely well, like anyone who I would say like, you could probably talk to, basically anyone who watches Fox News would understand what this means. But outside of that, it's very little known. And this is something we've been dealing with. I mean, just in terms of a meme for like 9 years now. So, it's an example of how like high context this can all be. So in maybe like 2010, around Christmas time, the Obamacare exchanges were trying to promote people signing up. And so they posted this picture of this guy, and it kind of looks like a kind of a liberal elite, this young guy, and he's wearing a like a Christmas themed one, like pajamas. He's wearing it's not clear if it's a onesie or what the deal is, but it's a very cozy situation. And he's kind of sitting on a bed, and he's got like a hot cocoa. And so, the implication being, just get your healthcare squared away. You'll be cozy like this guy, and maybe a little smug. But so this was taken as kind of like, these Obama, these effete elites love Obamacare. But in his case, he became known as the pajama boy. And so now this is an insult they use to refer to liberals, as they call them pajama boys. And more recently, we've seen this sort of transform into soy boys, which the implication being that consuming soy feminizes you, which there's not a scientific basis for.
Right.
But they'll call guys
I know why
bodybuilders won't drink soy because of the supposedly
it has an estrogen receptor or something in the soy. Yeah, I've seen soy boy a lot. And this goes back to what I was mentioning before, which is they love that cryptic language. Like I remember after a bunch of the white supremacists started getting kicked off of Twitter for just using regular racist language, they had I remember running into a whole dictionary of terms that they would use, and I don't remember what almost any of them are now, but they have it's like a glossary of terms that they use to mean something else. And I feel like that's why they get so invested in other conspiracy theories, is because they're so layered themselves in this cryptic type of language. It's almost like if you're hanging out with a teenager, you have to learn their lingo. Mm-hmm. You'd have to learn the lingo of the alt-right in order to really be able to properly converse. And I guess that's a layer of protection for themselves. They have to, in order to say, okay, well, you're part of our group if you know this language. I could see that being that blanket of protection.
Desperately trying to
absolutely.
think if liberals have that counter list, like, do we have anything? Do we have a glossary? And I keep thinking, no, it's just like normal words.
Just words. Just normal words. We just use the normal words.
So, okay. Well, let's see here. I wanted to ask you, so obviously it sounds like you do find a lot of conspiracy theories or maybe fake news on the sources that you do monitor for your newsletter. Is that true? And do you think that it's the same on other like non-conservative media sites? Do you see lots of conspiracy theories or fake news out there? Or do you feel like this is kind of a problem on the conservative news side?
Sure. So yeah, like the sort of the conspiracy media and your fake news and stuff like that has really blended a lot more into into what we would think of as more mainstream conservative outlets, whether that be talk radio or Fox News, and so or like the Washington Times or something like that. Like it really has since the beginning of the Trump campaign, the conspiracy outlets have gained a lot more power and have become a lot more respectable. I mean, obviously, President Trump went on he went on Alex Jones's InfoWars show. I mean, that's a real seal of approval there for you. And so, yeah, like I do think it is more now. Admittedly, I'm not really covering left wing stuff, but I do think, and I think studies have backed this up, that the right wing audience, for whatever reason, is more susceptible to fake news and hoaxes.
I would agree, especially from what we've seen doing this podcast. You're actually the last episode before our 1-year anniversary. So we've been doing this for a year now, and it's like you just don't find as much fake news on I mean, you have the Palmer report, but you have more spin than fake.
We definitely have a lot of spin on our side. But there's usually, you can usually, and even, I would say even for a lot of the bigger conservatives, there's at least the kernel of truth. And it's just missing from so many of these, like, especially the stuff with QAnon. I mean, I'm telling you, going through on Twitter today, I was like, why do they hate John McCain so much? Like, where did that come from? John McCain is suddenly responsible for ISIS being created. He is responsible for the recent gassing in Syria. Like, he is just responsible for everything. And I just thought, I mean, they're to the point where they're like, he doesn't have cancer.
Oh my gosh.
And there's nothing wrong with him.
He's the new Obama.
Picturing him. Yeah, I understand that he is not a fan of Trump, but I don't understand the amount of vitriol that is being raised against him. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, they really don't like him.
Yeah.
And as you say, it is because he, is a relatively vocal Trump critic.
Wow. Well, yeah. Will, it has been awesome talking to you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I have a couple more things for you. First, I want you to tell us where we can find you. Where should people follow you?
Sure. So I'm on Twitter at Will Sommer. That's Will SOMMER. And so I'm tweeting about this stuff as it happens. There's always developments. Additionally, Right Richter is at rightrichter.com, and you can sign up there.
Okay, if you are tweeting about all this stuff as it happens, then I have a new conspiracy theory that Will Sommer is actually a robot.
Yeah, it's. Honestly, it is just. It's a very fun hobby. Before I started the newsletter, I mean, just on my lunch breaks at work, I'd be reading this kind of stuff. So, it's just kind of putting it in a way people can enjoy.
Yeah, I have a hobby too. It's a podcast, so I hear you.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, well, we have one final question for you before you go. So, our tagline is "Spread jam, not lies," because we want people to spread some jam around and not all these lies with fake news. So, we like to ask, "What is your favorite jam?" And this can be literally anything: actual jam, a song, a book. But what is your favorite jam?
Sure. So right now, I've really been digging the Culture books, which are a science fiction series by Ian Banks. And I'm not like a huge science fiction guy, but I kind of made the jump on this, and it's real good. It's kind of like it's a lot of good world building. It's kind of Star Wars-y. So yeah, I've been into that.
Nice. Well, we will stick that on our blog. We'll put a link up for it.
Yeah, that sounds great. I love when people bring their book recommendations, because that's what I normally do as well.
I recommend a song every episode, and Kelly recommends a book every episode. So we like to spread some jam around too. So
cool.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for coming on. I had a great time chatting with you. And like I said, you are just doing such a service, and I hope people do sign up for your newsletter. And we will be definitely tweeting at you and being like, "Will, explain this, please."
Yeah, definitely. And I would wholeheartedly recommend following Will on Twitter. That is really interesting stuff that you found today. And I know all your articles seem to be posted there as well. So I really enjoyed just, doing a long run look at the Twitter feed today.
Basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have 2 new best friends, Will.
Well, that's great to hear.
Perfect. Well, thanks for chatting with us, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Wow, Beth, that was a really great conversation with Will.
It was.
I'm so glad that we tricked him into being on our podcast.
You know what? Actually, okay, so I know I said that I just asked him to do it, but really what I did is I posted it on QAnon in a very unreadable thread so that it would get to Hannity, and Hannity would talk about us, and then Will would be like, oh, I got to talk to these girls. I actually got him to call us.
Yeah, Hannity is always talking about us.
All the time. I just wish he would shut up. No, but that was amazing. I just, again, like, Will is my hero for being the person to take the bullet on listening to. And actually, it sounds like he enjoys it. Like, it's not something that he considers the bullet taking, but I do. That he's doing that on my behalf. So
yeah, for sure. Because I don't have time to listen to all these. I just don't have time to put that into my brain. So thanks for taking that hit for us.
Yes, exactly. So, hey, let's do our Spread Jam Not Lies.
Let's do it.
All right. So this week, my jam is Counting Stars by One Republic, because I thought, you know what, we should count the number of stars that are tweeting about QAnon.
There's at least one.
There's one, for sure. No, but actually this song, it's kind of funny. So I love this song. I cannot not dance when I hear this song come on. And that has led to at least one embarrassing situation for me. But for a really long time, I thought that this song was actually by One Direction. And I was so embarrassed that I liked a song by One Direction. And then one day I was talking to Miranda and I was like, I actually really like this song. It is by One Direction. I was almost like going to her, like she was like my music counselor. I was like, I don't know what to do. I like a song by a stupid band. And she was like, oh no, that's by One Republic. You're totally fine. And I was like, One Republic?
That's so much better.
Oh, that is so acceptable. I'm so happy with that. And then just to close the circle on it, I went and tried to listen to a One Direction song and didn't get through it. And I was like, oh, no, they're terrible. No. So that is my jam of the week, Counting Stars by One Republic.
That's funny. You know what? I will tell you it's not really a dirty secret because I tell people I don't really care. But I will tell you that I really loved Justin Bieber's last album.
Oh, okay. I thought I was really scared there for a second that you were going to be like, I actually like One Direction.
Yeah, they're like
I have all their albums.
Bands. I can't believe that we've been talking about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really liked that last album. It goes back a couple years.
A lot of people did. Yeah, I think a couple people like that album, like 5 or 6. So I don't think you're alone.
No, I'm definitely not alone. Kanye West also liked the album. So right there.
And he has great decision-making skills.
Yeah. I base all my life decisions on what Kanye West does. Actually, I say it like that. I'm a huge fan of Kanye West. So
are you?
Don't at me, because I seriously am. I am a gigantic Kanye West fan. So
all right. Well, hit me with your jam. What's your jam of the week?
My jam, Will had talked a little bit about how Trump appeared on Alex Jones and how Roger Stone had something to do with that. So I have been pestering Beth to read this book. And so I'm putting it as my jam of the week because I really want her to do it now. It's super short, Beth. It's 48 pages. So it's totally doable. Yeah.
You never said that before.
I should have mentioned that it was only 48 pages.
You lead with the 48 pages,
I know. And I listened to the audiobook, and I want to say the audiobook was under 2 hours. So it's super short. It's about like a long podcast at this point. But it's called The Elephant in the Room, and it's by Jon Ronson. I always am going to recommend the audiobook when it comes to Jon Ronson because his voice is magic. He's got that certain type of Welsh/English/American that it just is very melodic, and I love it. But if you just like to read, it's just a very short read. But it is all about his running into Alex Jones, going to some of the events before the 2016 election, and meeting Roger Stone. It gives some background into Manafort and Roger Stone and what they did before they became part of the Trump campaign. It's amazing and complicated, and I read it a year ago, so I'm not going to really get into it. But I definitely recommend it, and I'll put a link up on the blog. I want to say that it might be like $3 for the audiobook. Like, it's very cheap. I know the book is free on Amazon Prime. So whichever way you want to do it.
Okay. I like it. I like it. All right. Sounds good. Well, hey, everybody. I think we forgot to say where they can find us. We gave Will that chance. But you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at Podcast Fake News. You can email us any questions, or if you want to be a guest, you can email us, search us out like Will did. Just kidding. I searched him out. No, but seriously, if you are somebody who has something to say about fake news, give us a shout out. Podcastfakenews@gmail.com. We've got the blog at podcastfakenews.com. Got some satire up there if you want to laugh after you read The Elephant in the Room because it totally fucking depressed you. And you need a laugh, you can go read some satire. So there you go. All right, guys.
Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, until next time, spread jam.
Not lies.